Welcome back to High Class Gear. Get yourself ready for another great video. You won't find anyone with more realistic and intriguing stories from the big 80s and the weird 90s than this channel. If you came here looking for something strange, creepy, car chases, police fights, stupid mistakes that came back to get me, or even for a little bit of knowledge, you've definitely come to the right place. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you stay up to date with all the great content coming your way. The following story takes place in the year 1996 in the state of Washington in Gig Harbor after a trip. I was driving up from Oregon on a break from university to visit a friend in Seattle, Washington. I didn't have any family in Oregon, and before visiting family in California, I accepted an invitation to hang out with one or two friends in Seattle that had made good in their lives. I jumped in my 1976 Plymouth Volaré and was on the open road from Ashland, Oregon. I had packed some basic provisions. I had my AAA map, some packs of graham crackers, a 32-ounce container of water, another 32-ounce container of Mountain Dew, and I made sure to look out for frequent rest stops to fill up when I needed. I knew I'd get about 20 miles to the gallon if I took the right turnoffs, and made sure not to get on any detours or get lost. My 15-gallon gas tank should hold up, and after the servicing I'd done on the transmission, it should definitely be more efficient. The journey would take about 600 miles, and based upon the time I left, I should be with my friend by dusk or a little bit after. I had checked in with him by calling on the house phone before leaving. I checked in one more time on a payphone at a stopover before crossing the Astoria-Megler Bridge into Washington State. The roads to Seattle were calm but steady, with traffic zipping in and out without too much fanfare. I went past so many towns with long Native American-sounding names and wondered how many had died in battles or in the establishment of those towns. The names betrayed the fact that the original tribes of that area were either completely extinct or were in such small numbers, they were not significant or a factor any longer. I knew I needed to pass through Olympia and then Tacoma on the way to Seattle, and then I would hit Rainier Avenue once I arrived. My maps were pretty clear, and I'd used my pen to draw in my departure, arrival, and stop-off points. The one thing I didn't count on was an issue with my radiator. I saw a small pillar of white smoke poke out from under the hood and at first thought it was fog. I'd entered a patch of road that was a little bit foggy and thought this was part of it. Then I came to realize as the smoke increased that it was from my car. Damn, I've got to pull over. I looked for another rest stop and was relieved when a sign popped up for an Exxon gas station. I'd also had too many graham crackers and too much Mountain Dew and needed to offload in a bathroom. I checked the car first and spoke to an attendant that told me to go ahead and use the restroom while he gave my radiator a look. No wonder he was happy for me to check out the restroom. That was one of the messiest things I'd ever seen. And why was the floor black? Perhaps it had been white or off-white tile last century, but years of human waste and grime had really made it into a panic room for long-distance travelers that needed to relieve themselves. I had to hover over the toilet in order to do my business, but before that, I'd made a fortress of toilet paper around the toilet seat. My hands never made direct contact. Once I finished, I pulled the lever to flush, and it just bubbled at me. Oh my God, this is so nasty! The sink didn't work. Now I had to wash my hands. I slipped out of the bathroom, navigating the floor so I didn't fall down on the slippery surface. Once outside, I saw the guy working on my radiator. I opened the driver's side door and grabbed my 32-ounce water container and poured out some water on my hands to wash them. I looked at the gas station worker while closing up the container and putting it back in the car. "You know that bathroom is in a bad state, don't you, man?" I said while giving him a disdainful look. He said, "Yeah, but the gas station is 24 hours. So, when would we find time to give it a full service clean?" he said while looking at me and shrugged his shoulders. I pushed the discussion no further as his excuse for wallowing in filth was convenience. "Don't push the line. So, is the radiator screwed? I gotta get on the open road and I'm wondering if I can make it." He said, "It should be fine. There are no tears, holes, or anything in it. I'm gonna put a little bit more of antifreeze in it just to make sure you're fine." "Where are you headed?" he said while looking at me for confirmation. "Seattle. Is it cold further up?" He said, "Yeah, I'd say once you get there to have another look at it. I don't see any issue, but the smoking should stop. I figured the problem out," he said while giving me a nod and a small smile. I grabbed my wallet, pulled out $10, handed it over, and thanked him for his time. Back out on the road again, I turned on the radio and made my way. I was close enough that I could pick up K-Fox radio station and check out the news and other things. It was a nice distraction from all the other things on my mind. I was supposed to take a certain turnoff but chose otherwise against my better judgment and got lost. Where was I going? How do I go back and get back to where I started? Man, I was getting lost. I wanted to get to Seattle before or just after dusk, but if I carried on at this rate, I'd possibly be late. I need to get back on track. I was still lost and needed to stop and get more directions. So many trees, so many houses dotting the landscape, but no rest stop. I will have to stop and ask for directions. I didn't like the spooky and out-of-the-way look of this neighborhood, wherever it was, and the heavy tree cover made it look darker outside than it really was. Damn, this area looks spooky, but I've got to ask someone. I tried to choose the least intimidating house and took my risk. There was a large driveway and a house in front of it that looked like it was from the 40s. Nice place, but let's just ask directions, get back in the car, and get out. I parked my Volaré, turned off the lights and jumped out, slamming the door and walking up to knock on the door of the house. I stood to the side so as not to be directly in front of the door. This can be seen as invasive, and if someone is armed, they get a straight shot at you. I didn't want to get blown away in a neighborhood like this for trespassing. Standing off to the side a little bit would give me a fighting chance. The rickety hard wooden door slowly creaked while opening. An old woman with horn-rimmed glasses looked up at me and I felt the warmth of the house rush out from the open door. She said to me, looking a little bit uncomfortable. I wanted to put her at ease and calm things down and just get out of there after some quick directions. Hi ma'am. I'm just driving to Seattle in my car over there and I got lost. I'm wondering if you might be able to tell me where I am and maybe give me some directions so I can go on my way. I apologize for disturbing you, I said, trying to be as friendly as I could and not scare her. Oh, I see. You're quite far off, young man. You're in Gig Harbor. And you say you're trying to get to Seattle? Is that right? She said, while confirming, her eyes smiling at me. I was so happy. I knew where I was. I was in Gig Harbor. I thanked her for her understanding and told her that I would appreciate any directions that she had. She told me to grab the map from my car and I might as well come inside and not just stand out in the cold. I love the Pacific Northwest. Even when they don't know you, there's a hospitality they have for a traveler that is second to none. I quickly retrieved my AAA map and shyly knocked on the open door before coming inside. Once I stepped inside, I could see a house of warmth, memories, and history. I tried not to gawk while looking at pictures on the wall of her in her younger days with a man I assumed was her husband. Yes, that's my husband and I. We were married for so many years. He was an amazing man. Lost him a few years ago. We'd been married more than 40 years before he went, she said, falling silent and leaving a slightly uncomfortable silence while her words hung in the air. You have my condolences. I'm very sorry, ma'am, I said, trying to show what respect I could to her house and late husband. Oh, it's okay, I'm just getting over it. We never did have any kids, so we never heard the pitter-patter of little feet around the house. So we enjoyed each other's company. We vacationed, we barbecued, all the things a couple does when they're in love, she said, her voice trailing off again. She got up and left the room briefly. Although with salt and pepper colored hair, I could still make out flashes of the auburn hair she had in her youth. She had looked after her health well, and was not obese or sickly looking as you would expect from a woman that had reached her age. Her tinted glasses gave her a stately or matron look, like a school teacher or secretary. I waited in the room and looked around, realizing that all the furniture, including the chair I was sitting on, was covered in plastic. She even had plastic runners on the floor for when people came into the house with their shoes on. That older generation definitely knew how to take care of their stuff. No wonder everything they had always looked brand new. In a few precious moments, the woman of the house returned with a small plastic fold-out table and placed it in front of me. I didn't know what to say or what to do, so I just sat up straight. My name is Bonnie, by the way. She smiled down at me and clasped her hands softly while looking upon me with love. Thank you, ma'am. I've been taught by my family not to call my elders by their first name, so I can't just call you by your first name. So, it will have to be Miss Bonnie or something like that, I said while nodding to her gesture. I tried to wave my hands to refuse the tray and the food that she now held in her hands. She would have none of it. Now just a minute. You've driven a long way, it looks like, and you still have some ways to go. The least I can do is look after you, she said with insistence. I was going to be fed and there was nothing I could do about it. She'd brought out a very nice evening snack. I saw home-baked biscuits, eggs, a few pancakes, and what I believed to be fresh orange juice. I was just getting a few things ready before you came, she said, while pulling up a table in the kitchen area of the room, and then setting her own plate and glass down. This woman was so cordial, it would be wrong not to oblige her. She said grace, and then started on her food. I said my own prayer over my food and started in on my own portion. Wow, this was some great chow she'd put together. Her husband had been a lucky man, and he'd definitely chosen the right woman. Good character, great hospitality, and first-rate cooking. A guest couldn't ask for better treatment. The meal wrapped up, and Miss Bonnie would not hear of me carrying my own plate and glass to the kitchen. She wouldn't hear of it at all. She patted my shoulder and pointed to the kitchen table to sit down where my map was unfolded. Once she finished, she came back into the room, and we pored over the directions on the map where I had gone wrong and how I could get back on track. She took a pencil and made small stars on the map so that I could follow her train of thought when she was giving the directions. Everything fit together so perfectly. She clapped her hands together and got up. I waited, and she was back in a flash while I was studying the map. Then something strange happened. She started speaking to me in a fashion that immediately put me ill at ease, and then it happened. She started talking about virility, staying power, a man that could satisfy her and how that's what she liked. She loved a man that could satisfy. And she was curious as to what I could do, being that I had brown skin, was tall and exotic looking as she put it. She uttered, her voice trailing off as she looked me up and down. I felt like I was a meal, maybe a snack to her. She disappeared from the room, which gave me time to quietly fold up my map, throw it under my arm and slip outside to my car. I fumbled with the keys, unlocked the driver's side door and was in my seat with the utmost quickness. I fired the engine and looked up, fearing that I might see her at the door or even worse, in front of my car. But she wasn't there. I slammed my foot on the gas and my back tires squealed as I hauled ass out of her driveway and back into the street. Please God, don't let her catch me or get after me with her own car. I didn't feel fully secure until I was completely out of Gig Harbor. As I drove, I remember how shaken and afraid I was about what that woman said. I just couldn't get over how quickly things escalated. Had I misread the signs from the beginning? Maybe I hadn't been paying attention to any hints she had dropped? Had this been her plan all along since I arrived? Had she done this more than once? Like one of those ladies that waits for a drifter to pass through and then once he suspects nothing, she pounces on him. I dodged a serious bullet that day and was grateful to reach Seattle only moments after dusk. I had made it a little bit later than I had wanted, but I arrived. And since then, I've never been back to Gig Harbor. If you enjoy these videos and what we do here, subscribe to the High Class Gear channel, give us a like, and hit the notification bell so you always get updates on new content every week. Stay safe out there.